Hey, Osio, welcome to the Red Road East, the Indigenous TV program dedicated to archiving and preserving the history, legacy, and culture of the original peoples of the Americas east of the Mississippi River and the Caribbean. Today, we're going to tackle a topic that I really hate to have to revisit in the year 2022. Before I go further, can everyone hear me? Well, I want to know, just put a one in the chat if my audio is good, because I don't want to ramble and the audio is no good. Oh, we got the Cobra Assassin in. Hey, peace. Thanks for joining. Yeah, it's a topic that I hate to have to revisit in the year 2022. I mean, colorism is still going on in this late stage. I mean, this is something that was dealt with by myself and my godmother Firebird. I see she's in the house. Native Voices Turtle Island TV, our sister station. You know, this is something that we had to deal with way back in the early, at the beginning of the 2000s on YouTube. And before that, you know, I had to deal with just in the community, you know, before the advent of the internet, you know. But the reality is colorism is still going on. And, I hate to have to revisit this topic. I hate to have to even discuss it, you know. And, I want to, apologize if, any videos in the past may have offended anyone that was called out publicly for, you know, things of this nature. You know, I really don't like to have to do that. So, but on the flip side, we have to recognize that darker skinned individuals who are indigenous to this land or are autochthonous to this land are discriminated against on a daily and consistent basis. And we're not the ones who initiated this whole controversy, okay? At least when I started, you know, walking the red road about 30 years ago, okay? We were on the receiving end of the prejudice, and when we were speaking, it was in defense. We were not on the offense, okay? And so, what I want to do, instead of publicly coming out and chastising anyone or any group or anything like that, what I want to do is educate and show examples of how this colorism and the reality of a color caste system, which a lot of people think, just exists in India, but it's not just there. This is a global phenomenon, you know. And I'm gonna go and take a trip around the world, and we're going to see where any place that you see Aboriginal people, we're talking about the first inhabitants of the different countries all over the world, the different continents, and you'll see it's the same phenomenon. Okay, so I want to begin, and I see we have we got some haters, we got some trolls here. We always get these trolls. Girls 18 cite hot girls for you. Yeah, anytime I do one of these videos, we get these trolls that come in. Oh my goodness, amazing. So what I want to do now is take a look at something here. I want to share my screen with you, and I want to start by saying that for fair use and educational purposes only. I do not own the rights to any copyrighted material, video, or audio that I'll be sharing today. Okay, this is for informational and educational purposes only. Okay, so I'm gonna share a video. I was gonna go, let me see. Before I go there, yeah. Okay, let me share the screen. Yep. Right now, we're gonna look and see what goes on in the Philippines.
Videos that I posted. I was talking about racism, and there was this one based on the picture that she had on her profile. She was African American, and her comment was, "Why is this B word talking about African American issues?"
Oh wow!
Post.
Wow, apparently you didn't tell me that.
So yeah, based on that, our
I'm sorry that you had to experience that.
It's okay, and it's not your fault. And I did not personally. It did not affect me. That's why I left it on. I deleted it because some other people that were coming onto my channel felt offended by it.
You're saying it did not affect you?
It did not affect me. I actually found it insightful.
Okay.
Okay, because I was talking about an African American issue, and she specifically was questioning why are you talking about, you're not African American, you don't have any say in this matter because you don't share my color. And my instinctive reaction was to, in my head I was thinking, well, why, number one, you're doing the very thing that you're asking me to stop doing, and that is to stop being racist or being a know-it-all or whatever. Because Filipinos, actual pure Filipinos, are Africans. Eye test in the Philippines.
Hold on.
So this is us.
Hold on. Apparently. Let's roll to take back a little bit.
And where's my camera here? So this is us.
Hold on. I don't know what's gonna happen with this particular episode. I just got wrangled into this situation, so
that he doesn't know about.
This is all new to me.
So that's an actual pure Filipino.
This is a pure Filipino.
That's how we look like.
That's how we look like.
That's how we look like. Okay. So from here,
you're gonna get heat on this one.
From here,
I can't even.
To get to here is thousands of years of evolution. But it was from this. We are from Africa, so that's the truth of the matter.
Okay, all right. Oh wow.
So when Magellan, a Spaniard, discovered quote unquote Philippines, this is what he found. This is what he found. This is what he found. Now, prior to him discovering the Philippines, we were actually already trading with China and other.
When you say we, you're talking about the darker we now?
Yeah,
okay,
this.
All right.
We were already trading with Chinese and other Asian countries. And so if you've been interacting with certain people for thousands of years, there's going to be some breeding that's happening.
Yeah.
And so this That's one of the reasons that became this. After that, when he discovered the Philippines, they actually decided to stay in the Philippines. I guess we're charming people. They couldn't leave. So they stayed there for 300 years.
That's a long time.
That is a long time. And
That's a
that's
long time.
part of the reason black became brown.
Okay.
Okay. And then after them, Japanese came,
Mm.
stayed there for 3 years.
3 years.
Uh-huh. And then Americans came, never left. They're still there.
It sounds like some American stuff.
Yeah.
Man.
And so that's how we became brown. And
Wow.
that's how other Filipinos eventually had a lighter skin. But the core of us were actually Africans. And that is why, to that person who left a comment, that is why I was talking about African issues. Do know how it feels to be discriminated in my own country.
Yeah. So pause it for a second there. So when you listen to her words, don't get caught up in, the colorable terms, black, brown, African, and, this, that, and the other. The important takeaway from her conversation, and I admire her honesty, is that what she's saying in essence is that her phenotype was not the original phenotype. What she's saying is that they came from a darker people, a darker Aboriginal people. And through waves of migration from China, from Japan, from America, and different places, their original phenotype was altered. So they went from dark skin, kinky hair, or coarse hair to the phenotype that she exhibits today. Okay. And she also talked about how the Aboriginal people in her country, who they refer to as Aetas, which, as she said, is a pejorative term, but they are the original stock, is what she is saying. You see? So, even all the way in the Philippines, the original inhabitants are discriminated against and they have colorism, okay? And they're relegated to the bottom rungs of society, to the bottom rung of society, okay? Let's continue.
Wow. Okay. Um, my comments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One is I do wish you would have left that on there.
I wish, yeah.
Yeah, because of that. There's that. Two, for the person who left that comment, I understand the frustration of what she may feel when somebody else is trying to claim uh, your ethnicity and use it as a platform. So I get that, where she could be insulted by that. I don't agree necessarily with the approach and her calling you out of your name because of it. I can understand somebody being frustrated, but I think part of what we need to do as individuals is elevate our presence and be able to do it. You could I think that it could have been reconstructed in such a way that it doesn't have to be so confrontational. Um, but I understand the frustration, and that's it. Everybody, you got you. Whatever. This is amazing. I'm still in shock. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm still rippling with amazement, and I would wonder what the comments are going to be next for you, not just from the Black community, but I'm sure a lot of Filipinos are going to be like, I am not Black. Don't put that Black child in my family tree. I don't want to have nothing to do with it. I'm sure there's going to be.
Yeah, this ITAs, we call them, they are actually discriminated in the Philippines. They're pushed in the
Hills.
the hills of the provinces and stuff. And some people, so the ITAs are actually called the N word in our country.
No.
No, they are. And the one that ends with an O. That's what they call it.
Negro.
Yeah.
You can say Negro.
I don't want to say that anywhere near that word because
Okay.
I don't want to. I just
All
want to
right,
place
all right,
it.
all right. I can say it
Okay.
because I'm near it.
Okay.
Negro.
So they're called the N word, and if you
But you can't. That's different when you say they're called the N word.
no wait, if somebody who's not
Black.
is called the N word in my country, that's nothing. It's not offensive to
Right.
us.
I understand.
But this race,
Yeah.
this specific race is called the ITAs. If you call
It's called ITAs.
if you call a person an ITA, that is considered offensive in my country. Imagine that. Our origin.
I get it because that's wow.
Yeah. So they are marginalized in our country, and I feel like I have never been ashamed of my ancestry. I know this is where we came from. I'm very proud of their culture, and I find them very, very, honestly, very beautiful.
Can I give you a little bit of information?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so as far as race goes, there was a period of time where I believe it was called the Enlightenment period. No pun intended on the Enlightenment. But what happened was they needed to make a distinction so they can treat Black people worse. And so what they did was they showed Black people being closer to apes. And because, they would show like a skull and they would show like the nose and stuff like that, and they would say, obviously, the Black people are closer to apes. So therefore, they're not really human. And so this happened early on, like in the 1700s, 1800s, and they had lots of scientific-minded individuals that subscribed to this. And so what happened was referring to Blacks because Blacks weren't considered humans. And so this has been in the system for centuries, this mindset, this belief. And so there are still people to this day that reign superiority over all. This breakdown, you can look it up, it's everywhere. But this breakdown would be basically if you're Caucasian, you're closer to God. And so there's that. And then you got the Nordics and you got this. And so that's all one thing there. And then any other shade less than white was subhuman. And then by the time you get to the Black folks, you were definitely not human. So that's why it was okay to have slaves. And it was okay to beat them and separate them and do whatever because they weren't human beings.
Okay, so based on the skull, the formation of the skull.
Not just the skull. There were several things. If you look at the scientific racism, just Google that, and you'll see how they kind of have the white man here, and then this all kinds of other people, and then they have the ape here, and then they'll put purposely the Black right there next to the ape. So therefore, it is subhuman, not human. And then, so the closer you are over here, you're closer to God, and et cetera, et cetera. It's really, really deep. It's really, really deep because when you have generations of individuals believing that, right? You got generations of people believing that. Then there's put into a system, all of the different systems. You got the legal system, you got the police enforcement system, you got all of the social systems that are really uh, either overtly or invertly, I don't know, or internally supporting this particular belief. But it is very, very clear. Just go ahead and look at the scientific racism, and do a Google search on it, and a belief system. And people today still believe this. We have people in office that believe this to be true. And you will also have people say, no, there's no one really.
Yeah. So this is an example coming from the Philippines. Okay. And before I go forward, I see there are 10 people watching now. Please hit the thumbs up uh, button if you enjoy what you're seeing so far. Okay. And that particular phenomenon is, like I said, global. As you saw, the young lady said that in the Philippines, those people are called the N word. Okay. He said, as the brother said there, he said, her words, he's pretty sure that some people are going to be mad at her for saying that they are those same people. Even though they all know that it's true, the thing is to distance themselves from that reality. Okay, and she even talked about how skin whitening is a big thing over there as well. Okay, and I've even talked to Chinese people who have said that they do that in China. Okay, so people feel that there is no such thing as quote unquote white privilege, but they're lying to themselves because all of that falls under the umbrella of white privilege. Okay, the fact that people have to, not have to, but choose to lighten their skin in order to be accepted in society. Okay, that's white privilege. Okay, the fact that there is a color cast, that's white privilege. Okay, so you know we're not just pulling this out of thin air and just complaining and you know talking about discrimination and talking about or attacking people, you know, for their phenotype and things of that nature. No, it's the other way around. The darker skin is the one that is under attack, the one that is always undermined. Okay, let's just take a look at not just here in America, but like I said, all over the world. I don't care where you go, you find the same thing going on, where you have the white, so-called white black dynamic. Okay, the white is always the one that is superior. The darker skin is always the one that is seen as inferior. Okay, now what I want to do, I want to go to another part of the world. Give me a second. See, because me, I don't like to just talk. I like to show evidence. I like I like to come with the receipts because talk is cheap, very cheap. Give me a second. I'm putting up video here. A minute. It's not this way. Uh, Give me a minute. Uh, Bear with me. I'm gonna have to search my video history to find it. Okay, still I said this. Not over here. Don't go anywhere, guys. And ladies, it's got some real good stuff here. Uh, okay. Let's see something. Almost there. I found it. I just have to send it. Email this. Thing is, I know that I sent this to myself yesterday, but for some reason I have to do it over again. So, okay, I have it. So I'm about to share it with you now. And before I proceed, for those who are generous enough to leave a donation, I'm going to leave where you can leave a donation in the chat. Give me 1 second. I'm going to do that before we proceed. Okay, so if you look in the chat, uh, I left where you can leave a donation via PayPal and via Cash App. Okay, and with that, I'm gonna pull up this next video. So, and the reason why I'm sharing these videos because I would rather teach rather than have to chastise. It's always better to teach and have reasonable dialogue. You know, so pull up this link, share the screen. So right now, what we're doing, we're going across the world right now to India. We're going to India. Okay. Some of you may already be familiar with this history. Others may not. Okay. And in India, they have a color caste system. Okay. The dark skinned original inhabitants are at the bottom rung of society. They're called untouchables. Okay, total outcasts. All right. So let me share a little bit of that with y'all.
This temple chariot cannot move, not because of any technical defect. The burden of untouchability is pulling it down. For 300 years, the chariot was being drawn by the caste Hindus of Kandadevi, a village in Sivagangai district, Tamil Nadu. In 1997, when the Dalits staked their claim to draw it, the chariot came to a grinding halt. Even a court directive has not helped. The government is on the side of the caste Hindus. This scene at Kandadevi symbolizes the 3,000-year-old legacy of the caste system that continues to torment the so-called untouchables of India, who today call themselves Dalits, meaning broken people. The cause of this oppression is the subcontinent's peculiar feature, the caste system, a product of the Brahmin imagination. The Purusha Sukta hymn in the Rig Veda suggests a mythical origin of caste theory, according to which the Brahmin, or priestly intellectual class, emerges from the mouth of the Creator, the Kshatriya, or warriors or protectors, from the chest, the Vaishya, or merchants, from the thighs, and the Shudras, slaves to serve the above three groups, from the feet of the Creator. The fourfold order is called Chaturvarna in Sanskrit. The so-called Chandala untouchables and the indigenous Adivasis do not even figure in this order, and hence fall outside the caste Hindu fold. The Chaturvarna codification is justified by many of the Hindu religious texts, such as Puranas, Smritis, and even epics like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Societal inequality is the bedrock of Hinduism.
Let us leave aside slogans. Let us leave aside words which frighten people.
As Dr. Ambedkar, who oversaw the writing of the Indian Constitution, puts it, the caste system is a social hierarchy in which there is an ascending scale of reverence and a descending scale of contempt. This hierarchy of inequalities is sanctified by religion based on the theory of Chaturvarna and is fixed and permanent. Over centuries, the Varna blueprint has spawned innumerable jatis or castes and subcastes, each ideally an endogamous group. Currently, there are more than 3,000 caste groups in India, and more are being formed. But two features have survived and remain intact: the Brahmins' hegemony and the Dalits' untouchability. The Dalit untouchables, despite 50 years of affirmative action, are forced into so-called lowly traditional occupations, like removing corpses and dead cattle. Scavenging is almost exclusively a Dalit profession in India, even today. Dalit 160 million Dalits, of whom the majority live in rural India, are subject to the most medieval forms of discrimination. Untouchability is reinvented in modern institutions and spaces. The apartheid against Dalits, segregation of housing and burial grounds, separate cups for Dalits in tea shops, sexual violence on Dalit women is treated as a right of caste Hindu men. A Dalit should not wear a shirt or pant in caste Hindu presence. No access to common water sources. Caste Hindu pressure to stick to unpaid traditional occupations like scavenging. Curbs on the use of footwear. Cycling prohibited in caste Hindu areas. No entry into temples and Baba shops. Educated and economically well-off Dalits are not rented apartments in cities. Dalits go unrepresented in the higher echelons of judiciary, bureaucracy, and high-tech institutions. In literature, cinema, and media too, Dalits are marginalized. The seeds of Kandadevi lie in this temple at Unjanai village. In 1979, 5 Dalits were killed when they tried to participate in a Hindu religious ritual. This is the Kandadevi temple where the chariot is untouchable. Temple entry for the so-called untouchables has been a major issue for some 100 years.
குடிச்சிட்டு இந்த பக்கம் அப்படி திரும்பி வரும்போது அந்த காகித புகாரான்னு ஒரு வீட்டு இருக்கு. அங்கே வரும்போது தான் எங்கள் ஊர் ஆள் தான் ஒருத்தர் சொல்லி அவர் இல்லாட்டி என்ன ஜாயின்னு யாருக்கும் தெரியாது. எங்கள் ஊரில் ஒரு மேல் ஜாதிக்கார் சொல்லித்தான் என்னை வந்து ஆள் வச்சு பிடிச்சி அடித்தாங்க. இப்போ எங்கள் தொகுதி திருவாடான தொகுதி எம்எல்ஏவே இந்த தேரை வந்து இழுக்க முடியாது. இழுக்க முடியாது, தொடவே கூடாது.
இனப்பாகுபாட்டின் அடிப்படையில் ஒரு கொடுமை நடத்தப்பட்டார். அது வந்து ஐநா சபையுடைய ஒப்பந்தங்கள் அதுக்கு வந்து எதிராக இருக்கு அப்படின்னு சொல்லி முன்னே ஏற்கனவே இருக்கு. இந்தியா வந்து கையெழுத்திட்டு இருக்கிற ஒப்பந்தங்களுக்கு இப்போ இருக்கிற நடைமுறை வந்து எதிரானது. அதன்படியே இந்திய அரசாங்கம் வந்து அவங்களுக்கு அறிக்கை சமர்ப்பிக்க வேண்டியிருக்கு. அதுவே ஆண்டுதோறும் அவங்க அறிக்கை சமர்ப்பிக்கணும், அதையே சமர்ப்பிக்கிறது இல்லை.
Some time ago in 1986 there was a conference at Columbia University on racism and untouchability. So that was a kind of beginning effort to bring together blacks and Dalits. But they had trouble getting visas for people to go there. Getting, from here. And afterwards, they could not, at that point, organize a conference here on the same issue. So, it's hard also for American scholars to study Dalits. Those Dalits in the U.S. who tried to raise the issue have gotten support from black community. I mean, the big example was the first person actually in 1975, Lakshmi Bedouin in Washington, D.C. And because he went on black radio stations in Washington and talked about the problem of untouchability, the Indian embassy there got quite upset. India protested, the Russians protested on India's side against presenting it.
In the 1999 elections to Parliament, the Dalit constituency of Chidambaram witnessed unprecedented violence. Dalits are not allowed to cast their votes. As an intimidation tactic, Dalit houses were set on fire. Officially, 504 Dalit houses were razed, unofficially more than 1,000. Attacking Dalits with fire and razing down their dwellings is an usual caste Hindu strategy to browbeat Dalits who assert their rights.
இந்திய அரசியல் சட்டம் எழுதப்படுகிற போது சாதிக்கு ஒரு நிலைவேறான தன்மை அவர்கள் அளித்தார்கள். என்ன, ஒருவன் பிறப்போக்கும் எல்லா உயிருக்கும் என்று சொன்னாலும் ஒருவன் சாதி மாற முடியாது, மதம் மாறிக்கொள்ளலாம். சாதி மாற முடியாது என்கிற அந்த பிரிவு பிராமணர்களுக்காகவே சேர்க்கப்பட்டது என்று நான் நினைக்கிறேன். ஏனென்று சொன்னால் இன்னமும் கூட இந்த தேசத்தினுடைய குடியரசுத் தலைவராக இருக்கக்கூடியவர் ஒரு மிகச்சிறிய கோயிலினுடைய கர்ப்ப கிரகத்துக்குள்ளே தன்னுடைய பிறப்பு காரணமாக நுழைய முடியாது.
On July 23, 1999, a procession was held in Tirunelveli to demand decent wages for Dalits who were forced to do bonded labor in tea estates. Without warning, police attacked the Dalit-led procession, where the only path of escape led to the river Tamarabarni. Here 17 persons, mostly Dalits, met a watery grave. Even those who tried to swim and escape were chased by the police and murdered.
தாழ்த்தப்பட்டவங்க வந்து எதையுமே கோரக்கூடாது. இந்த தாழ்த்தப்பட்டவங்க வந்து எதையுமே கோரக்கூடாது. இவங்க வந்து உழணும், வெட்டணும், சாப்பிடணும், உறங்கணும், வீட்டுல நாம சொல்றதுக்கெல்லாம் கீழ்ப்படியணும். அதுதான் அவங்களுடைய குறிக்கோள். மேல இருந்து ஆட்சியாளருடைய குறிக்கோளும் இந்த அதிகாரியுடைய குறிக்கோளும். நாங்களும் உங்களை மாதிரி மனுஷன் தானப்பா அப்படின்னு நாங்க இப்ப தெரிஞ்சுக்கிட்டோம். நாங்களும் உங்களை மாதிரி தானப்பா இருக்கோம். எங்களுக்கும் பேண்ட் ஷர்ட்டை போட தெரியும், எங்களுக்கும் சாப்பிட தெரியும், எங்களுக்கும் படிக்க தெரியும், எங்களுக்கும் எல்லா அறிவும் இருக்கு அப்படின்னு சொல்லும் போதுதான் எங்களை அடிக்கிறாங்க.
Though Ambedkar tried to internationalize this issue, the world forums did not take it up. Now this must be made a world issue. Now BJP government is opposed to this because once the caste issue becomes a UN issue, in the UN Human Rights Chapter, now the discrimination, sources of discrimination is talked in terms of race, religion, language, sex. Now caste has to be included in this list. If America wants to talk about human rights, it must understand the violation of human rights by not allowing the scheduled caste to get into hotels, not allowing the SC, ST, OBCs to become the priests in Hindu temple while claiming them to be Hindus. This invites sanctions against the Indian government.
When a Dalit boy sought to marry a caste Hindu girl in Chettikulam, his entire village was targeted. Women were sexually assaulted, even children were abused.
கடைவீதிக்கு யாரும் டீ குடிக்க போக முடியாது. அந்த ஒரு குறிப்பிட்ட எங்களுக்குன்னு ஒரு எல்லையை ஒதுக்கி வச்சிருக்கான். இந்த எல்லையை தாண்டி நாங்க யாரும் போக கூடாதான். கம்யூனிட்டில போந்து ரொம்ப கஷ்டப்படுறோம் சார். இந்தியா சுதந்திரம் வாங்கிக்கிறானுங்க, இன்னும் சுதந்திரம் வாங்காம தான் இருக்குது.
இந்த கெட்டோஸ்ங்கிறத நம்ம இன்னைக்கு இந்தியா முழுவதிலும் வந்து பார்க்கலாம். காலங்காலமாக அதாவது இந்த ஆப்பிரிக்காவது வந்து இந்த ஐரோப்பிய நாடுகள் அமெரிக்காவுக்கு போனதுக்கு பிறகு அல்ல தென்னாப்பிரிக்காவில் வந்து வெள்ளை என ஆதிக்கம் ஏற்பட்டதுக்கு பிறகுதான் அங்க கெட்டோஸ்ங்கிறது உருவாச்சு. ஆனா இந்தியாவிலேயோ தமிழ்நாட்டிலேயோ இந்த தாழ்த்தப்பட்ட மக்கள் வந்து காலங்காலமாக பல ஆயிரக்கணக்கான ஆண்டுகளாவே கெட்டோஸ் எல்லாம் வச்சுக்கிறாங்க. சேரிகள் என்பது கெட்டோஸை தவிர வேற என்னவா இருக்க முடியும் வந்து.
In 1997, after a Dalit Murugesan became the village president in Melavalavu, he was murdered along with 6 others by caste Hindus. After being elected as president of this Dalit constituency, Murugesan was not even allowed to function from the Panchayat office. A murder plot was hatched and Murugesan was beheaded.
பூபதியும் சிவகமூர்த்தியும் முருகேசன் இவங்க எல்லாம் இங்கனக்குள்ள அந்த அந்த வைக்கப்படப்பு இருக்கு, அதுக்குள்ள போய் மறைஞ்சு மறைஞ்சு வைக்கப்படப்புல ஒளிஞ்சதையும் போய் விரட்டி போய் வெட்டி முருகேசன் தலையை கொண்டு போய் போட்டது அந்த கேணி.
நெஞ்சம் கலங்கமவரு நெஞ்சம் கலங்கமவர் அந்த பத்தினியால் ரூபதியே பத்தினியால் ரூபதியே.
The UN has been over the years formulating covenants and declarations against all possible forms of discrimination. Caste alone has escaped it till now. Possibly because it is confined to one country and one particular culture. But such international response is good because even in the case of racism or apartheid or nuclear weapons and so on, often it is international pressure. The UN does represent a certain kind of international opinion. Such pressure has had some impact. So I think, and moreover, as far as India is concerned, our rulers have, from the days of Nehru, exhibited certain sensitivity to Western opinion much more than to Indian opinion. India has perhaps tabled the largest number of revolutions against apartheid, against racism, against nuclear weapons. India has always been at the forefront. It has been talking about very frequently our politicians when they go outside speak the idiom of justice and equality and equity. So I think it's very good and useful that this kind of resolution is passed or a covenant is framed, which will help to put a lot of pressure upon the Indian state.
Kodiyankulam was a prosperous all-Dalit village. Many Dalits are based abroad, and Kodiyankulam has become a role model for other Dalit settlements. The Dalits here enjoy the comforts of modernity. This offended the dominant caste Hindus of the area. An entire police contingent with rowdy elements descended on the village and unleashed violence on people and their belongings. TV sets were broken, houses were ransacked, and food grains and water resources poisoned.
எங்களை அடிச்சு நிமிஷப்பட்டு பெரிய பெரிய அரியாரையெல்லாம் அடிச்சாங்க இந்த ஊர்ல. வெடிய வாயில கடிச்சு கடிச்சு எரிஞ்சாங்க. ஒரு தாழ்த்தப்பட்டவங்க இவ்வளவு வசதியாவும் இவ்வளவு செல்வாக்காவும் இருக்கான்னு சொல்லி போறாம வயிற்றுச்சல் துப்பாக்கிய கொண்டு கொண்டு சுடுதான், கம்பெடுத்தி அடிக்காம பொட்ட பிள்ளைகளை விரட்டுதான் முடுக்குதான். 5 வயசு குழந்தை 10 வயசு குழந்தைகளெல்லாம் அடிக்காம தொட்டில பிள்ளைய கூட அறுத்து கொண்டு போனான். 1 கோடி சனத்தை வச்சு ஒரு கல்யாணம் முடிக்காங்க. 1 செகண்ட்ல வந்து தாலி அறுத்துட்டு போயிட்டான். என்ன அரசாங்கம், எங்களுக்கு என்ன நீதி கிடைக்கு?
ஐஐடி நிறுவனத்தில் தலித் மாணவர்கள் உளவியல் ரீதியாகவும் எப்படி புறக்கணிக்கப்படுகிறார்கள் அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கு ஒரு உதாரணத்துக்கு நான் குறிப்பிட்டு சொல்லணும்னு சொன்னா, தலித் மாணவர்களுக்கு மட்டும் ஜேஇஇ என்று சொல்லப்படுகின்ற அந்த நுழைவுத் தேர்வுல கலந்து கொள்கிற தலித் மாணவர்களுக்கு மட்டும் கொடுக்கப்படுகின்ற வினாத்தாள், அந்த வினாத்தாள் தலித் மாணவர்களுக்கு மட்டும் தனி வண்ணத்தில் கொடுக்கப்படுகிறது. தனி வண்ணத்தில். அதே மாதிரி அவர்களுக்கு எழுதுகின்ற விடைத்தாள்களும் வந்து ஒரு தனி வண்ணத்துல அவங்க கொடுக்குறாங்க. இது மிகப்பெரிய ஒரு டிஸ்கிரிமினேஷன்.
எங்க அம்மா வந்து ஒரு மலைமல்லி ஒரு தொழிலாளியா வேலை செஞ்சு அவங்க இறந்துடுறாங்க. இறந்த வேலையை நான் வாங்கிட்டு நகராட்சிக்கு போறேன். நான் ஒரு நிலைமைக்கு வந்து ஒரு தொழிற்சங்கம் மற்ற நிலைகள்லாம் இருந்தாலும் அதிக படிச்சாலும் கூட, ஆனால் வந்து அந்த ஆபீஸ்ல வந்து நான் வேலைக்கு போறதுக்கு முன்னாடி நான் என்ன பண்றாங்க, நீ வந்து யாருன்னாக்கா ஒரு பாக்கியத்தோட மகன் தானே, அவங்க வந்து ஒரு பீவார தொழிலாளியோட மகன், குறைந்தபட்ச அரசாங்கத்தோட ஜீவ பிரகாரம் ஒரு என்னுடைய கல்வி தகுதி குறைந்தபட்ச வேலையா வந்து ஒரு இளநிலை ஒரு ஜூனியர்ஸ் வேலை கொடுக்கலான்னு அரசாணைகள் இருந்தாலும், நிர்வாகத்துல வந்து நீ ஒரு பீவாரியோட மகன் தானே, ஒரு மலவள தொழிலோட மகன் தானே, உனக்கு அதே வேலை காத்திருக்கு, நீ போன்னு சொல்லி கூச்சப்படாம என்ன வந்து அவமானப்படுத்தின சூழ்நிலை எங்க நகராட்சியில இருக்கு.
In 1930, the British government allotted 280,000 acres to Dalits of Tamil Nadu, but the Dalits never got a possession of these lands. The Dalit movement in Tamil Nadu took up the land issue in the 1990s. In 1994, in the village of Karnai, the Dalits claimed their stake to 11 acres, which was rightfully theirs, but had been usurped by caste Hindus. Symbolically, the Dalits erected a statue of their leader, Baba Saheb Ambedkar, on their land. This was felled by the police. On October 10, 1994, a Dalit procession was attacked and police opened fire, killing 2 Dalits, John Thomas and Elumalai. The entire country has not seen such a struggle for a land by Dalits. 2 Dalits were martyred for just 11 acres.
நீங்க என்னதான் நீங்க பொருளாதாரத்துல மற்ற எல்லா வசதியிலையும் வந்து அவங்க இணையாகவும் மேலாக வந்து கொண்டிருந்தாலும் பண்பாட்டு ரீதியாக அவ்வளவு சீக்கிரமா அது மாறாது. ஏனென்றால் பண்பாட்டு ரீதியாக இருக்கக்கூடிய எல்லா விவகாரமும் உங்களுக்கு வந்து அடிமன ரீதியாக கட்டமைக்கப்பட்டது. மற்ற விஷயங்கள்லாம் வந்து இப்போ அவன் தோல் நிறம் கருப்புங்கிறது வந்து அடிமன ரீதியான ஒரு விஷயம் கிடையாது. உங்களுக்கு வந்து ஆனா அவங்களுக்கு ரொம்ப ரொம்ப ஆழ்மன ரீதியாக இது வந்து கட்டப்பட்டதுனால மற்ற மாற்றங்கள் எவ்வளவு துரிதமாக நடந்தாலும் கூட வந்து இந்த மாற்றம் அதை நோக்கி வேகமா வராது உங்களுக்கு. ஏன் அப்படின்னு சொன்னா வந்து மாற்றம் என்பது இங்க வந்து ஆழ்மன ரீதியாக மாற வேண்டிய ஒரு சமாச்சாரம் தான் சாதியம் என்பது.
The colonies of caste Hindu Nayakars and Dalits are divided by a road. In 1992, the Dalits decided to build a temple along the road. This irked the caste Hindus. 4 Dalits who were returning from a late-night cinema were targeted and butchered.
இந்த காந்தரியம்மா சாமி வந்தாங்க, கொண்டுட்டு வந்தபோது இது ஊருக்குள்ள ரொம்ப பிரச்சனை ஆயிடுச்சு. அவங்க வைக்க கூடாதுன்னு சொல்ல, இவங்க வைக்கணும்னு சொல்ல, அந்த இடம் வந்து அவங்களுக்கு சொந்தமா இருக்குதான், அதனால வைக்க கூடாதுன்னு சொல்ல. அப்படி இருக்கும்போது இவங்க தகராறு பண்ணிக்கிறதுக்கையில இவங்க வேலைக்கு போனவங்க எங்க வீட்டுக்காரர் வேலைக்கு தான் போனார். வேலைக்கு போன இடத்துல இந்த குளத்துக்குள்ள வச்சு மிரட்டி அடிச்சு போட்டாங்க.
தலித் உயர் ஜாதி ஆண்கள், தலித் ஆண்கள் 2 பேர்த்துமே இவங்க வந்து கஷ்டப்பட வேண்டியிருக்குது. ஏன்னா இந்த நம்ம சமுதாயம் வந்து வெறுமனே ஒரு ஆணாதிக்க சமுதாயம் மட்டும் இல்ல, உயர் ஜாதி மனோபாவம் கொண்ட ஆணாதிக்க சமுதாயம் தான் இருக்கு. இப்ப தலித் ஆண்களை எடுத்துக்கிட்டீங்கன்னா கூட அவங்க வந்து பெண்கள்னு வரும்பொழுது அவங்க ஒரு உயர் ஜாதி ஆனாதான் அவங்க வந்து செயல்படுறாங்க. ஏன்னா அவங்களுக்கு அந்த பவர் இருக்குது, பெண்கள் மேல அதை செயல்படுத்துறாங்க. ஜாதியினால வரக்கூடிய அத்தனை கொடுமைகளும் அனுபவிக்கிறது தலித் பெண்கள் தான், ஆண்களை விட. ஏன்னா எந்த ஒரு கலவரம்னாலும் சரி, அது ஜாதி கலவரமோ, அது கூலி உயர்வு கேட்டோ, அல்லது மத கலவரமோ, அல்லது நிலத்தை அபகரிக்கிறது, அந்த மாதிரி நிலத்துக்காக சண்டை போடுறது, எதுனாலுமே முதல்ல வந்து தாக்கப்படுறது தலித் பெண்களா தான் இருக்கிறாங்க. அதுவும் உயர் ஜாதி ஆண்களால மட்டும் கிடையாது, உயர் ஜாதி பெண்களாலையும் தாக்கப்படுறாங்க. இன்னும் சொல்ல போனா காவல்துறையினாலே ரொம்ப மோசமா நடத்தப்படுறாங்க. கலவரம்னு எடுத்துக்கிட்டீங்கன்னா காவல்துறையினர் வந்து அந்த உயர் ஜாதி பெண்களை வந்து ஒரு கெட்ட வார்த்தை கூட போட்டு திட்ட மாட்டான். ஆனா தலித் பெண்கள் அப்படின்னு சொன்னா இஷ்டத்துக்கு வாய்க்கு வந்தபடி எல்லாம் பேசுறாங்க. அப்ப இவங்க வந்து அந்த ஜாதியில இருக்கிறதுனாலதான் அந்த மாதிரி அசிங்கமான வார்த்தைகள் கேட்க வேண்டியிருக்குது. இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு பாலியல் பலாத்காரத்தை கூட உட்படுத்தப்பட வேண்டிய நிலையில இருக்கிறாங்க.
The Dalits of Sangarankulam were completely dependent on caste Hindus for a living as agricultural labor. The caste Hindu devas exploited their dependence by sexually targeting the Dalit women laborers. The caste Hindu men raped Dalit laborers as a matter of right.
உடனே எங்க அம்மா போச்சு. போனோடனே என்ன பாக்கரமா கொண்டு அரவழிச்சு செய்துட்டாங்க.
இந்து மதத்துல மட்டும்தான் சமமின்மையை வந்து தன்னுடைய கொள்கையா வச்சிருக்க ஒரு கோரை, அதனுடைய இந்து மதத்துடைய கோரே வந்து சமத்துவமின்மை தான். அப்படி பாத்தீங்கன்னா இங்க ஜனநாயக மறுப்பு தான் இந்து மதத்தினுடைய இருப்பு. அப்ப இந்து மதம் இங்க வந்து இருக்கிற வரைக்கும் இந்த சமூகத்துல ஜனநாயகம் வந்து நிச்சயமா நிலவவே முடியாது.
நாங்கள் இந்துக்கள் அல்ல, யாருக்கும் அடிமை இல்லை. நாங்கள் இந்துக்கள் அல்ல, யாருக்கும் அடிமை இல்லை. நாங்கள் இந்துக்கள் அல்ல, யாருக்கும் அடிமை இல்லை.
The Dalits of Minachipuram created a nationwide sensation in 1981 when 1,000 families collectively converted to Islam. Remaining in Hinduism made no sense when basic human dignity was denied to them.
ஒரு தண்ணி குடிக்காச்சுன்னா எங்களுக்கு சிரட்டையில ஓடுவோம், சிரட்டையில விடுப்பான். ரெண்டாம் தரம் போய் அங்கிட்டு பசுக்களை நின்னாலும் நீ என்ன எங்களோட ஒண்டி நிக்க அப்படிங்காங்க. அந்த அதெல்லாம் பொறுத்து தாமியா நாங்க மதம் மாறினது. ஆமா,
இப்ப எப்படி இருக்கு?
இப்ப அழகா இருக்கும். ஆமா, இந்த மதம் மாறினாக்கல கொஞ்சம் தாவலல்ல, எங்களுக்கு கொஞ்சம் சரி இருப்பு கொடுப்பாங்கல்ல. ஆமா,
அன்டச்சபிள் என்பது மட்டுமல்ல, அன்சீயபிள், அன்அப்ரோச்சபிள் என்று பார்க்கக்கூடாதவர்கள், நெருங்கக்கூடாதவர்கள், பார்க்கக்கூடாதவர்கள் என்று இருக்கிறது என்று சொல்லுவது ஏதோ நாங்களாக சொல்லுவதல்ல. இந்திய அரசாங்கத்தில் நியமிக்கப்பட்ட பிபி மண்டல் அவர்கள் தலைமையில நியமிக்கப்பட்ட மண்டல் குழு அறிக்கையிலேயே 5வது அத்தியாயம் நினைக்கின்றேன், அந்த அத்தியாயத்திலேயே எப்படி சமூக அமைப்பு இந்தியாவில இருக்கிறது சொல்லி 2 உதாரணம். திருநெல்வேலி மாவட்டம்
So, as you can see, this is a global phenomenon. And I see we had more viewers before, and some of them dropped off. For those who are still with us, let me know, is this too graphic for you? Is this too much? Let me know in the chat. You know, I know a lot of people don't want to see this kind of thing. However, this is a reality, and it's something that we must look at. You know, you can't just, act like it doesn't exist. Okay? This is what really goes on. How deep the colorism goes. It goes all the way to the point of rape and murder. Okay, and let's see. We have some comments. Okay, Cobra Assassin says, "No, Elder, keep driving home the truth. Our people here need to see this." Okay, I need that feedback so that I can know, because I can stop showing this stuff, and I got a whole lot more, you know, but people want to say, oh, there is no colorism, we all get along fine and things of that nature, and think that we're just complaining for nothing, you know. What are y'all complaining about? You know, hey, it is what it is, We're not making these things up. See, it's easy when you have the white privilege. You can say, what are these people complaining about, because you don't experience anything, okay? You may experience some things, okay, but you don't experience it like we do, okay? You ever heard the saying, he who feels it knows it, okay? So we're on the receiving end. You're not on the receiving end. So you can't identify with our plight. So, to other people, and again, I'm not coming down on any one particular individual, I'm just making this issue known and public, okay? It's known, but a lot of people don't know about it, or they haven't done the research. It doesn't get a lot of media attention, okay? So I know the videos are graphic, okay? I know it's showing death and, you know, things that people would choose not to see. But I have to show it because people are under the assumption that everything is fine and why don't we all just get along? I want us all to get along. Okay, that would be lovely. What would be better if we could all just get along? That's that's what it's all about. Okay? But we can't ignore the reality. Okay? Because I want people to see who, maybe they don't know. Okay? So that's why I'm showing these things. And it gets even worse. Okay? It gets worse. This is part one of this discussion. Okay? Again, myself and my godmother Firebird, we were doing this since the early 2000s on YouTube. Okay? Before there was any other, there may have been maybe one other, one or two other channels that were dealing with this. But, we were at, myself and Firebird, we were at the ground floor of this type of information in terms of, who we are with relation to this land, you know. However, and let me continue on. See, okay, some people, um, they want to see this. Okay, so if y'all want to see it, I'll continue to show it. Again, I know it's graphic, but I'm getting confirmation that it's not too disturbing for people. App Junior says, "Keep teaching. This is a learning moment." Okay, well I'll continue to play it.
அந்த திருநெல்வேலியில தாமிரபரணி அந்த ஆற்றிலே இருக்கக்கூடியவர்கள் துணி எடுக்கக்கூடியதுல சமுதாயத்தில் இந்த சலவையாளர்கள்ல பிறந்த வண்ணார்கள் என்று ஒரு பிரிவு. பகல்ல அவர்கள் துணி எடுத்துக்கொண்டு போய் அழுக்கு துணிகளை எடுத்துக்கொண்டு போய் தாமிரபரணி ஆற்றில துவைத்து விட்டு வெளியே வரக்கூடாது. காரணம், அவர்கள் பார்க்க கூடாதவர்கள், தொடக்கூடாதவர்கள் மட்டுமல்ல, பார்க்க அன்சீயபிள்ஸ். ஆகவே அவர்கள் என்ன செய்வார்கள்னா, நடுராத்திரியிலே அந்த துணிகளை எடுத்துக்கொண்டு போய் அதை இரவிலே துவைத்து விட்டு பொழுது விடியதற்குள்ளாக திரும்பி வந்து தங்களுடைய வீடுகளிலே இல்லங்களிலே முடங்கி போய்வார்கள்.
The Dalits of Kirvanmani waged a struggle for better wages. To teach them a lesson, 44 Dalits were burnt alive in their house, which is now a memorial. It was indeed a labor issue, but the laborers were murdered because they were Dalits.
ஜாதியை பத்தி பேசுவாங்க, அதாவது கொல்ல பேல பரப்பேல அப்படின்லாம் பேசுவாங்க. ஆமா, தண்ணி அவங்க வீட்டுல போய் தண்ணி தவிக்குதுன்னு கேட்டான்னு சொன்னா இப்படி இப்படி கைய காமிக்கணுங்க, அவங்க ஊத்துவாங்க.
பரமேஸ்வரா திரிபுரம் எரித்த தேவா, திரிபுரம் எரித்த தேவா, அபயம் அபயம் என்று அபயம் அபயம் என்று ஆயிரவதை கூச்சலிட இந்த ஆபத்துக்கு உதவாமல் தேவரெல்லாம் தான் போக, தேவரெல்லாம் தான் போக, அதிவிதியால் தெல்லாடை அதிவிதியால் வெள்ளாடை துதிக்கையில் ஜலத்தை வைத்து அரண்ட பொருள் அழுகையிலே அப்போச்சனமே மேல்விழியா, அப்போச்சனமே மேல்விழியா.
இப்போ புலம்பெயர்ந்தெல்லாம் தமிழர்கள் இப்போ நிறைய பேர் வெளியில் வசிக்கக்கூடிய சூழல்ல அங்கே நீங்க போய் பார்த்தீங்கன்னாலும் இங்க இந்த தீண்டாமைங்கிறது ஏதோ ஒரு வகை வடிவத்தில் அங்கே இருக்கிறது அப்படிங்கிறது வந்து இன்னைக்கு அவர்களே ஒத்துக்கிறாங்க. அங்கிருந்து கதைகள் இது மாதிரிலாம் தீண்டாமை தொடர்பாக எல்லாம் வருது. அதனால வந்து நீங்க வந்து தீண்டாமைங்கிறது வந்து நீங்க வந்து புலப்பெயர்வின் அடிப்படையிலையோ அல்லது நாடு விட்டு நாடு போவதனாலேயோ போறதுங்கிறது இல்லை. தமிழர்கள் அல்லது இந்தியர்கள் அப்படிங்கிற அடையாளத்துடன் எங்கிருந்தாலும் அந்த அடையாளங்களுக்கு உள்ள தீண்டாமைங்கிறது கடைபிடிக்கக்கூடிய ஒரு விஷயமா தான் இருக்கு.
இந்த டீ கடை சமாச்சாரம், அந்த டீ கடை டம்ளர் சமாச்சாரம் அப்படின்பது ஏதோ வேத காலத்துல இருந்து தீண்டாமை இல்லது, அது மாடர்ன் தீண்டாமை தான். அது டீயும் மாடர்ன் பொருள், கண்ணாடி டம்ளரும் மாடர்ன் பொருள், ஹோட்டலும் மாடர்ன் இன்ஸ்டிடியூஷனு. இங்க எப்படி தீண்டாமை வருது? ஆகவே இது இங்க ஊறி கிடக்குது, இன்னும் இது இங்க குழம்பிக்கிட்டு கிடக்குது. இதை தீர்வு செய்தாக வேண்டும். ஏதோ கான்ஸ்டிடியூஷன்ல மட்டும் காஸ்ட்லெஸ் சொசைட்டி அப்படின்னு ஒரு பதத்தை போட்டு விட்டுறதுனால இது காஸ்ட்லெஸ் ஆகி போச்சு, இந்த சமத்துவம் சகோதரத்துவம் எல்லாம் இங்க வந்து போயிருச்சு அப்படின்னு யாரும் சப்ப கட்டிட்டு இருக்க முடியாது. ஏன் உள் விவகாரம் நான் தீர்த்துக்கிறேன் அப்படின்னா, இந்த நாடு சுதந்திரம் பெற்று 50 ஆண்டுகளுக்குள்ள இது எப்படி தீர்த்து கட்டி இருக்கணும். இந்த நாட்டுக்கு, இந்த சுதந்திர நாட்டுக்கு அந்த ஒரு வலு இல்லை அப்படின்றது தெரிஞ்சு போச்சு. இன்னும் எத்தனை நாள் பொறுத்து இருக்கிறது? இது உள்ளே தீர்த்துக்க முடியல அப்படின்னா நம்ம வேற இடம் தான் போய் தீர்வு காணணும்.
Caste is a subsumed racism. Caste is an internalized racism.
சங்கராச்சாரியார் இப்ப வந்து இன்னமும் தெளிவா சொல்றார், தீண்டாமை சேமகரமானது.
என்ன சொல்லுங்க, நான் அந்த அமெரிக்காவுக்குன்னா சிங்கப்பூருக்குன்னா ஐரோப்பிய நாடுகள்லாம் போயிட்டு வந்திருக்கேன். என் ஊருக்குள்ள இன்னைக்கு நான் செருப்பு போட்டு நடந்தேன்னா நாளைக்கு அங்க என் சொந்தக்காரன் உயிரோட இருக்க முடியாது, அனுமதி கிடையாது.
Race and caste might appear to be dissimilar categories, but racism and casteism, as they impinge on Dalit untouchables and blacks, share many similarities. Segregation, social prejudice, structural denial of justice, and an oppressive state mechanism are common to Dalits and blacks. Dr. Ambedkar's Protection of Civil Rights Bill was inspired by similar legislation in the United States. In the 1970s, the Dalits of Maharashtra called themselves the Dalit Panthers after the Black Panthers of the United States. Dalit literature in various Indian languages openly acknowledges its debt to black literature. The blacks and others facing racial discrimination and prejudice may not be aware of the situation of the Dalit untouchables, but the Dalits here are well aware of the commonalities between the fight against racism and the fight against casteism.
ஏன் அந்த கடவுள் இந்த ஜாதியை இப்படி உண்டாக்குனா? எங்களை ஏன் இந்த வறுமையில ஆண்டவங்க சோதிச்சான்?
Yeah, it's real. It's real. Okay, and I must add that myself and my godmother Firebird, we were back in the early 2000s, it was like maybe 2006, 2007, something like that. Firebird and myself were contacted by these people over in India because we had a show called Black Indians Debunked. Okay, and the people over there, these same people over in India, contacted us. They were like, hey man, we love your show. We're going through the same thing over here in India. We have the caste system, so they identified with our whole struggle. They're like, we see what y'all are going through over there, over in America. We're going through the same thing as Indians here of the East. You know, so this is a global phenomenon. And for those who have studied deeply, you'll know that there is a connection to those people and the Americas back in pre-Columbian times. Okay, there is a connection. Okay, you find a lot of similarities. Okay, that's another discussion for another time. Okay, but when you do your research, you're gonna find that we do have um, ties to those people over there here in ancient America. Okay, and I mean, people have a problem with our phenotype and things that we have to say about, the history and things of that nature. You know, it is what it is. Okay, we don't have an agenda that we're trying to push, anything like that. No, we don't. We just tell the truth. You know, some people, and again, I'm not talking about any one individual in particular. I'm speaking broadly. Okay, and some people can accept truth when it comes from a Caucasian person saying certain things. Like if I was to say certain things about anthropology, people would call me a racist or some type of, supremacist or things of that nature. But if a Caucasian anthropologists said the same thing. And like, oh, okay, that's very interesting. They can say things like, you know, life started in Africa. I'm not a proponent of the out of Africa theory. Um, but if I was, they would have a problem with that. You know, or if I were to say that the original inhabitants of the Americas were highly melanated people, they would have a problem with me saying it. So they wouldn't have a problem with Caucasian anthropologists saying the same thing. Okay. And it's a double standard. Okay. So some people would rather believe that they came from apes than to say that they came from Us, dark-skinned people. Okay, that's just the reality of it. That's how deep the prejudice goes. Okay, and yes, America is the old world. Another subject for another time. Okay, so these are double standards. You know, even though you see, I don't make apologies for the truth just to suit a Eurocentric paradigm. Okay, that's why I was given the name Fierce Truth Seeker. Okay, because I seek the truth. I don't care if that truth was white. I don't care if that truth was brown. I don't care if that truth was purple. Okay, that's not what matters to me. I don't care about uh, it being from a highly melanated people or whatever. I don't care about that. I just tell the truth. I don't have a bias. I'm not pushing any particular narrative. You know, anyone who knows me knows that I just present the information and I leave it out there for you, the listeners and the viewers, to accept it, reject it, or look at it and do further research on it. I present information from all sides, you know, and that's how scholarship is supposed to go. Okay, I just present the fact. I present the evidence. Whatever the evidence says, we're going to produce it. I don't care if the evidence comes from America. I don't care if the evidence comes from Africa. I don't care if the evidence comes from Europe, India, where else. You know, if there's evidence to say X, Y, and Z is true, then I put it on the table. You chop it up. And that's how it's supposed to go. Okay? But when we look at all over across the world and we see these different first inhabitants, we see a dark skinned autochthonous people. You heard the Filipino lady. She said the pure blooded Filipinos, and I'm using her words, not mine. She said the pure blooded Filipinos are African. These are her words, not mine. Okay? We don't have to get caught up in all of the semantics, you know. And when you take my class, which we will be having available next year, you'll see that all of that stuff, African, um, a lot of these uh, names and these land masses, it's really has been taken out of context. Okay, realistically, a lot of that stuff having to do with continents is really mythology. What is separating Africa from the so-called Middle East? except for man-made borders. Okay? What is separating Israel from Africa? Okay? What is separating Asia from Africa? Okay? When you take my class, I'll show you how the whole world was carved up and renamed to disorient you in history. What is separating Mexico from North America? Okay? But man-made borders. At one time, Texas, Louisiana, New Mexico, all of those states that border today's Mexico is nothing. It's really nothing but the North American South. Okay, and they kept pushing the borders back and renaming these places. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but my name is the Fierce Truth Seeker. Okay, and I have to tell the truth. What is separating Canada from North America? But man-made borders. Again, carve up the land, name it something else to distort your presence. Just confuse the people. Divide and conquer. Okay? You call Canada is nothing more than North America. Okay? So, I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. But that is the fact. Okay? And this is why you will see that a lot of those tribes up there are related to tribes here in North America. Okay? But anyway, enough of that rant. I want to share another video. Okay? Bring it more home. Okay? Wait a second. Share. Second. Yeah, okay. Maybe not. Let's see. Okay, let's share another one. Oh yeah, we got the good brother Lavelle Pierce in the house. And the good brother Lavelle says everyone needs a reality check instead of living in a bubble. The videos you showed from the Philippines and India is a check. Yeah, it goes that deep, you know. How can someone have hatred so much, you know, that you go to the point of burning them alive? I mean, whew, that's deep, you know. That is deep. And again, we're not sharing this to offend anyone, you know, or anything like that. You know, we're just trying to bring awareness to, like Lavelle said, a reality check, you know, to, you know, even check yourself, you know, with the prejudices, because a lot of people who feel that they are not, you know, they have those prejudices and they have to check themselves, you know. But let me share this next video. And again, this is not to offend anyone. This is just for informational purposes and hopefully give people those reality checks to have more sensitivity. This is sensitivity training that we're doing. Rather, like I said earlier, rather than, you know, call names and chastise individuals, you know, I'm just looking to bring more awareness to the reality of how deep the colorism goes, you know, across the globe, you know, in indigenous communities. Okay, so now this is another one on India, some history. Yeah.
I am Simone and welcome to my channel. In this video, I will talk a little about Dravidians. Very often, India is represented by a simple and generic stereotype version, which is Bollywood. In my opinion, Bollywood shows one important aspect of the country and has the big merit of promoting it abroad. However, it shows only one side of it. As a result, India has often been represented as a homogeneous entity, especially in the West. This is totally wrong. One example of that is hearing from people abroad the terrible questions, do you speak Indian? Or even worse, do you speak Hindu? Even inside India, while interacting with people from other parts of the country, one could see how little the average knowledge about the southern states is. For that reason, in this video, I will talk generally about Dravidians, who they are, their origin, their main groups, their geographical distribution in the subcontinent, and historical key points. If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Who are the Dravidians? It is commonly accepted that the term Dravidian refers to the ethno-linguistic groups that natively speak any of the languages part of the Dravidian family. The Dravidian language family consists of about 80 languages and dialects. They are currently spoken by more than 250 million people. The origin of the term Dravidian has not been fully clarified. It is certainly of Sanskrit origin, and it is probably a corruption of the term Tamil, the oldest of the Dravidian languages. It has been suggested that the term Dravidian would indicate Tamil and all the other languages related to it, in opposition to the Indo-Aryan languages and populations from the north. Dravidians are mostly present in South India. However, as we will see later in this video, there are historical Dravidian minorities in other parts of South Asia as far as Afghanistan, Malaysia, and Singapore. In fact, Dravidians are divided into three main groups based on their geographical location in South Asia: North Dravidians, Central Dravidians, and South Dravidians. Of these three groups, the largest and most famous is the southern one, that includes ethnic groups like Kannadigas, Telugus, Malayalis, and Tamils, living respectively in the southern Indian states of Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Kerala, Tamil Nadu. And Telugu have centuries-old literary traditions. Among these, Tamil is the oldest. Along with Sanskrit, Tamil is one of the world's classical languages. However, unlike Sanskrit, there is a continuity of almost 2000 years between its classical and modern forms, documented in many inscriptions, poems, and secular and religious texts and songs. Nowadays, the prominence of Telugu, Kannada, Tamil, and Malayalam languages in the Dravidian group continues to grow, thanks to a thriving film and music industry worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Recently, some actors or even movies from the Dravidian industry have made their appearance in Hollywood and in the Western cultural scene. However, apart from these four main linguistic groups, the actual number of Dravidian communities in the subcontinent is much higher. As said, they are divided based on their geographical distribution. In the northern group, we have the Brahawis in Afghanistan and Pakistan, the Kuruks and the Mato community in India, Bangladesh, and Nepal. Their total number is approximately 6 million people. In the central group, the main communities are the Chenchus, Gondis, and Khonds. They constitute about 4 million people. The southern group, by far the most famous and populous, includes Badagas, Irulas, Giravarus in the Maldives, Kannadigas, Kodavas, Kurumbas, Malayalis, Panias, Tamilians, Telugus, Todas, Tulbas. They are approximately 250 million. As we've seen, the situation is all but homogeneous. It looks more like a linguistic puzzle. That is a result of millennia of migrations, wars, invasions, and forced or spontaneous integrations with the other human groups that came to populate the Indian subcontinent in the past. These include the Iranians and the Aryans. Recent DNA studies have confirmed that the most plausible theory about the origin of Dravidians is that they originated from a mix that happened between 5,000 and 4,000 years ago because of the encounter between the Iranian farming communities coming from the north and the Aborigine Indians. The Aboriginal inhabitants of India, genetically labeled as ancient ancestral South Indians, were the direct descendants of the first human populations that reached South Asia. This was due to that occurred approximately 50,000 years ago that spread the human species all over the world. Around 5,000 years ago, the Iranian farmer groups started on their migration path, they encountered the Aboriginal Indians communities. From these encounters, there originated many mixes, which resulted in the establishment of new communities throughout the subcontinent. A comparative study of the Dravidian loanwords in the Indo-Aryan languages spoken in Sindh, Pakistan, Gujarat, and Maharashtra, as well as the toponyms of these states, has shown the evidence of a former Dravidian-speaking presence in the western part of the Indian subcontinent. This seems to confirm the theory that the roots of the Dravidian people lie in the integration between the local Aboriginal Indians and the Iranian people in their descent from the northwest of the Indian peninsula to the south, passing through the west coast. This genetic, cultural, and linguistic mixture created is what the scientists define as ancestral South Indians. Hence, somewhere in this integration process, the Dravidian people, the language family were created.
Okay, so I want to take a look at something there. Okay, so something key that he said was that these people here, the Jarawa people of the Andaman Islands, are their Aboriginal ancestors. Okay, and these people still exist today. They're the last surviving pure-blooded Aboriginal peoples of India. Okay, and if you recall, some years ago, I think it was about maybe 10 years ago, there was a Christian missionary who went there and tried to convert them to Christianity. They told him, get your ass out of here. Matter of fact, you can't even really, you know, they don't really like dealing with outsiders. You know, they told him, get the hell out of here. And he kept trying to convert them, and they killed him. You know, um, it is what it is. You know, they did warn him, say, get the hell out of here. You know, um, but he said, now this is India. He said basically the same thing that the young lady from the Philippines said, that those dark-skinned indigenous people were their ancestors. Okay, and again, you'll find this same phenomenon all over the world. What makes America any different? And I'm here to tell you that I'm not trying to push any agenda. I'm not trying to divide. I'm not even saying that the indigenous peoples in the plains and in Mexico, I'm not saying that they are not, that they, they're not indigenous peoples. I'm not saying that. Okay, they definitely have the blood. Okay, so I'm not here attacking, anyone or anything like that. I'm just dealing with the deeper roots. Okay, you have the ancient and you have the most ancient. Okay, so people feel threatened, when you talk about, the ancient, highly melanated peoples of the Americas and things like that, and, I'm not trying to discredit anyone. I'm not trying to say, we're better or anything like that. I'm not trying to challenge anyone's indigeneity. All I'm doing is shedding light to what the deeper roots are. Okay? And when you go across the world, you're going to find these same stories. You're going to find these same autochthonous people. And when you take my class, I show you this exact same thing. I show you the elders of the plains, quote unquote Indians, saying the exact same thing, saying that the ancient forebears of the American Indians were, and these are my words, I'm not using, don't get caught up in colorable terms. This is what the American Indians, the stereotypical what you call Mongoloid Indians or whatever, again, these are anthropological terms. They're not my terms. I don't, even really subscribe to them, but that's what they use in anthropology, But I have the documentation of the stereotypical Indians saying that their forebears were black people, black indigenous American people. I have that documentation. Okay. And when you take the class, I show you all of that stuff. You know. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to share that. And Andaman Islands, the last surviving Aboriginal Indian groups, East Indian, not American Indian, but East Indian. Okay, we'll close that out. And again, when you do further research, you'll find that there are American Indian elders who have even acknowledged that there is a connection to India. Okay, and I have a lot of documentation on the East Indian presence here in ancient America as well. But that's another subject for another time. Okay, so now let me close out of that. And I want to share another video, and this will be the last video that I share. And this particular video, I actually have this video on VHS, and I take this video on 60 Minutes live when it was airing on 60 Minutes. I still have it. I just have to find somewhere where I can convert it from VHS to digital. Okay. Again, I have a lot of people people will be surprised the information I have, the amount of information I have in the archive. I have interviews with elders who are no longer even with us anymore, you know. And that's why we ask for the donations and stuff like that because, I just don't have the resources to be able to produce this stuff for y'all, you know. It's a lot that I need, to bring better quality and stuff like that, you know. But in due time, to be able to do that. But I have all kind. You would be surprised some of the interviews that I've done over the years, you know, and the different people who have stories that you've never heard before and probably will never hear other than what I have on video because these people are no longer with us. They're deceased, you know. So that's why we ask for the donations. The donations are not, to, you know, buy cars with, buy, you know, buy materialistic items and things like that. I'm not even a materialistic person, you know. Anybody who knows me knows that, I take that money and, I'll spend them on information. I buy books, I buy things that will enable me to bring this information to you all, you know. Um, but yeah, so I want to share something with you all. Give me 1 second. You damn skippy, Damien. Better believe it. We got some good comments coming in. Indeed, Damien. Right. Yeah, Negroid and all that foolishness. Untold, the Costa, greetings. Yeah, okay. Thanks for your comments and everything. Thank you for joining in. Okay, so let me share this. This will be the last video I share. But yeah, like I said, this video here I have on VHS. VHS. I want to convert it. This was on 60 Minutes. It's about the Black Seminoles, so-called Black Seminoles. That's what they call them. Black is a misnomer, to me. That's what they call it. So yeah, this.
In recent years, Indian tribes across the country have reaped windfall profits, usually from gambling operations, and some, like the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, from belated government payouts for lands taken hundreds of years ago. But what makes the Seminoles unique is the fact that this tribe, unlike any other, has existed for nearly 3 centuries as a mixture of Indians and blacks, runaway slaves who joined the Indians as warriors in Florida. Together, they fought government troops in some of the bloodiest wars in U.S. history. In the late 1830s, the Seminoles lost their land and were forced to a new Indian home in what is now Oklahoma. Over the years, some of them intermarried, and that now the government is paying the tribe $56 million for those lost Florida lands, and the money is threatening to divide a nation. Talk to Seminole Chief Jerry Haney. He says the black members are no longer welcome by many in the tribe. After 300 years together, the chief says the tribe wants them to either prove they're Indian or get out. What are you hoping that the Black Seminoles will do now? Are you hoping they will just pack up and go away?
I would hope so.
So if they're black and they can't blood, go away.
Basically, that's what we're saying.
Harsh words from the Seminole chief for the 2,000 black members of this mixed Indian tribe. In response, they say they're just as much Seminole as he is.
I fished in these woods. I hunted in these woods. I went to stomp dances just like the regular Seminoles did. And I never knew I was any different for a long time.
On any given Sunday, go with Loretta Guest to the Indian Baptist Church in Seminole County, Oklahoma, and you'll find red and black Seminoles praying together, singing hymns in Seminole, sharing meals, and catching up on tribal news.
Hi, dog.
Walk with her through the Indian cemetery out back, and you'll find their ancestors are buried together as well.
My aunt is next to him.
Were there any distinctions made to you all at Black Seminole?
No, I've been treated as one to another. No difference at all.
It was an alliance that began more than 300 years ago in Florida when runaways from different Indian tribes sought refuge together and later fought the white man. Joe Opala, a history professor at James Madison University in Virginia, says that from the beginning it was a melting pot tribe. So these people all banded together and somehow became Seminoles?
Became Seminole. And in fact, the word Seminole is not even an Indian word. It is derived from a Spanish word, cimarron, meaning runaway slave. And so from the beginning, you don't have an Indian tribe. It was a multi-ethnic coalition.
Historical evidence documents their close relationship. Blacks became chiefs, signed treaties, and served on the tribal council. They intermarried. They were equals, Opala says, and the Indians depended on them as warriors and interpreters. So there absolutely is proof of the Black Seminole importance to the tribe.
Absolutely. There's a lot of intelligence information that passes back to Washington. For instance, General Jessup, the commanding general, writes back at one point to the War Department and says, the Negroes rule the Indians. What he was referring to was the fact that no significant decision was ever taken in the Seminole councils unless the Black members agreed to it.
When the Red and Black Seminoles were forced out of Florida in the 1830s, they traveled together hundreds and hundreds of miles by boat and on foot, passing through this barren place on the banks of the Arkansas River all the way to Oklahoma. It was a long and difficult journey, referred to as their Trail of Tears for the many who died along the way. Now, nearly 200 years later, comes the $56 million payment from the federal government to compensate the tribe for those lost Florida lands. But the Black Seminoles can't share in it because the government and the tribe say they were slaves of the Red Seminoles back then, and as slaves could not have owned land. Joe Opala, who has worked to preserve their legacy, says that's wrong.
The Black Seminoles fought side by side, died, bled for those lands in Florida. They've been together. They've been good brothers and good neighbors for 3 centuries. It makes no sense now to say they're not Indians.
Our ancestors were some of the most fiercest fighters during the war.
During the Indian Wars?
Yes, due to the fact that they knew if they were recaptured, they were going into slavery, back into slavery.
Bud Crockett and his sister Polly Gentry traced their Seminole roots back to their great-grandmother Dora Davis, who came to Oklahoma on the Trail of Tears. But family legend and physical resemblance aren't enough. Today, you have to be able to prove your Indian heritage, which is hard for most Black Seminoles because of something called the Dawes Rolls, a government census of sorts created in the late 1800s, which separated the tribe into the Blood or Red Seminoles and the Freedmen or Black Seminoles. Intermarriage made no difference, as Polly and Bud discovered with their ancestors.
If you had any Black blood in you whatsoever, you were a freedman.
So it didn't matter how much Indian blood you had. Just
right.
Any Black blood,
right.
You went on a separate roll.
Right.
And on the Black Seminole roll, it doesn't list that you have any Indian blood.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel equal to the Blood Seminoles?
Sure, at one time, yes. Still do. Still do. But when money and the government entered into the picture, everything changed. Everything changed.
If they don't have any Indian blood, then, or prove it, then they're not looked at as Indians.
Putting aside that history of togetherness, the Blood Seminoles are going by the book, that is, the government's book. They're relying on that 100-year-old census which separated the Black Seminoles from the rest of the tribe in determining just who gets the government money today. For Seminole leaders like Chief Jerry Haney, this is what it now comes down to, proof. I've met several Black Seminole women, some of whom look Indian, and yet they can't participate in the benefits. They know they have Indian blood.
I'm well aware of that. The individuals that I know of that say that, you're absolutely right. They show a lot of Indian in them. But it's up to the individual to prove that they are Indians. And this is where the problem is. They can't prove it with the Dawes Commission roll.
What happened to your front porch? You have no steps.
No steps. No steps there, no steps here. And I need a whole house here.
Polly Gentry has lived their life on land ago, full land in Oklahoma. Polly says she could use some of the $56 million judgment fund to repair her house.
My husband decided he's going to put some bricks around it, and he got, far as you see them bricks is now, and he had a heart attack.
And it's been like this.
And it's been like this because you couldn't get nobody to fix it.
Do you have the money to fix it?
No. No, Lord, no.
So did you apply for a benefit?
Yeah, but they wouldn't give it to me.
The Seminoles have $56 million coming from the government. And how much of it did you want?
I want enough that I can get me a house built. I live because it ain't no comfort here.
This whole business of degree of Indian blood is just a concoction. It's just an excuse now. They've been dreamed up of late in order to exclude the blacks from membership in the tribe. I can tell you this, 100 years ago or 150 years ago, Seminole Indians would not have been talking about whether or not this black person has Indian blood. It simply wouldn't have mattered. They were Seminoles.
You know what the motion is? We'll go ahead and vote on it.
For more than 100 of those years, Black Seminoles held 4 of the 28 seats on the tribal council. But that ended at a meeting like this one in the summer of 2000, when the Red Seminoles voted the blacks out. Sylvia Davis, who was one of the 4 Black Council members at the time, says it was humiliating.
It's been hard for me to sit there and listen to the way they talk to the freedmen. It's been very hard for me.
What do they say?
The racist name that they be using toward them, calling them animals' name, cows, stomping feet, roaring at them, telling them to get out.
They don't want you.
That's right. They'll tell you to go back to Africa.
Why do you think the freedmen, the Black Seminoles, belong as part of this tribe?
Because we have people that die along the trail, just like any other in the nation.
But I guess they're saying, yes, thank you. You fought alongside us in Florida. That was 200 years ago. It's time for us to separate.
I would just let them know that we have all rights within the Seminole Nation.
But Chief Haney says many of the Black Seminoles and even some of the Blood Seminoles weren't interested in being part of the tribe until it included benefits, namely up to that $56 million government payout.
The tribe wanted to have an Indian tribe that was all Indian tribe.
There are too many freedmen.
I think there's a lot of freedmen out there now that are eligible to join, but have not joined because there are no benefits.
But you think if there were benefits for them, suddenly freedmen would be coming from
Yes.
all across the country?
Yes.
Let me tell you what it looks like from the outside, though. It looks like the freedmen fought wars, died with you, moved on the trail of tears from Florida, Oklahoma. There's a big pot of money. Let's exclude them.
That may be true to some extent, but I don't think that's all of the reasons for what has happened.
He also says the Red and Black Seminoles have just grown apart over the years and have little in common today. But that's not how Sylvia Davis sees it. She's hired Will and John Veely, 2 young attorneys who specialize in Indian law. They're suing the government on behalf of the Black Seminoles.
The entire tribe received a county in exchange for a state. When that was individually allotted, all Seminoles, including the Black Seminoles, received their individual allotments. When the United States awarded $56 million, shouldn't the same people that received the land before also receive the money? The tribe's the same.
The Bureau of Indian Affairs chose not to speak on camera, citing the pending lawsuit. However, in a letter to us, they say that these kinds of issues are up to the tribe. Eligibility for the judgment fund, the letter says, may depend upon whether a current member is descended from a member of the tribe as the tribe existed in 1823. However, the letter says, deciding who's in and who's out is solely within the purview of the tribe. But the Black Seminoles say they won't go quietly. They continue trying to cast votes and participate in tribal meetings without success. Bud Crockett says he won't be denied his heritage, but he won't beg for it either.
It's not all about the money. It's about setting the history record straight about our ancestry and our history and what legacy we intend to leave for our kids.
Since the Black Seminoles were removed, the government has cut off all federal funding to the tribe. That's persuaded some, like Chief Haney, to say they should be allowed back in, but he still says they're not entitled to that $56 million.
I'm muted. Yeah, yeah, it's real. It's real. That's some of the things that we face on a daily and consistent basis. Okay. So now I took you all the way around the world and came back to our front yard. Okay. And that's just one out of many stories. And that I take that on VHS back. That's not my video there. Somebody else picked it, but I have it on VHS. That story aired on 60 Minutes. When I think that that was in the 90s, that was like the early or late, somewhere in the mid 90s. Okay, way back then. That's now we're here almost 30 years later. You know, so it continues. Struggle continues. Back then, they didn't even want to acknowledge the whole Black Indians story. You know, that story about, you know, Africans mixing in with in Indians through slavery, that whole narrative. You know, they didn't even want to acknowledge that, you know. Uh, yes, comments here. Yep, Walter Flecker. And that's just Walter Flecker in Virginia. This is happening all over the country, you know. Walter Flecker's not the only, you know. Yep. But yeah, thank everyone who joined in. And if you feel so led, left the link, or not a link, but I left the information where you can leave a donation to help us to be able to bring you this information in better quality, and also to be able to bring information out to you that's in the archive. Like I say, I've got lots in the archive that I need to transfer from analog to digital, that I even need to edit. You know, I need a lot of this stuff that I have is antiquated, you know, and you know I've got to upgrade a lot of my gear to be able to present this information. Some of it, a lot of it, I can't even present because the format is obsolete. You know, I got stuff like, y'all don't believe me. Y'all think I'm just it's just a pitch to get money. Let me show y'all something. Because I know there's some people, oh, that Negro just trying to get money, you know, stuff like that. So let me show you how real it is. One second. Right? want to show y'all. Got stuff like this right here. How many of y'all are old enough to remember? And this is not the big VHS. This is a little. This is the mini VHS. As you can see how small it is. Okay. This is the mini that goes to a camcorder. How many of y'all remember those little palm quarters? See the analog? See? Tape. No, I got a large young audience here. Let me show you. Give me 1 second. Y'all don't believe me. These are, I got a lot of analog stuff, you know. This is VHS now to give you some perspective. See the difference in size? Yeah. This is the mini ones that goes into goes into this is a camcorder. Camcorder. Okay. Somebody's asking in the chat what happened. Is there something wrong with the audio? If somebody give me, if you can hear me, hold the one up. For those who are still with us, if you can hear me, put a one up. If you can't, put a zero. Can y'all hear me? I don't know. Somebody's native Firebird is saying what happened. Something wrong with the audio? Hello? Can y'all hear me? Is the audio good? Can y'all hear me? Oh, okay. Firebird is bugging out. That must be her. That must be her. That must be her computer. Okay, so yeah, I was saying that, yeah, you know, this right here, this is old school. It's big, it's heavy, and in this right here, I've got these. Now, in today's world, this doesn't exist anymore. We're in the digital age. So I've got a lot of interviews that I did with people on this stuff. So I'm not, this is not some scam or, I'm saying, give you, not asking for money, not asking for money to put in my pocket, you know. This is, uh, this is, real, I have actual video, in this format and in other, um, analog types of formats, Um, I've got stuff on the what you call those the it's so so old I can't even remember the name of them things. Yeah, but I got stuff on the smaller um cassettes too, and different analog formats, that I need to bring into digital so that y'all can have access to the information, you know. Uh, I have a documentary that I would like to have done by next year. But a lot of the information is analog, you know. So for those who had been wondering why the documentary isn't complete yet, is because I have interviews that are done recently, but I have to include the interviews from the past, that I did back in the day as well with those elders who are no longer with us, so that their wisdom can be shared. Because those interviews that I got, you'll never, if anything happens to those videos, that stuff is in. Anybody who knows anything about analog, analog is not forever. As you can see, this is actually broken on the side. You see it's broken on the side. You can see this damage. Uh, this is, starting to become damaged tape, Once that's damaged, every day that goes by, is more aging. The quality starts to degrade. And once that's gone, those are interviews with elders that no one will ever see. That information will just die with these tapes. I got a whole collection of tapes of interviews that I've done throughout the years, that is obsolete in terms of technology that has to be transferred. And a lot of that stuff is starting to degrade. And like I said, some elders you may never even know exist. The information that they had is going to go along with the grading of the tapes. You know? So, when I ask for donations, it's not to get this, actually to, so that I can get this stuff to you. But, enough of that. And this is part one of this particular discussion. And I will be doing a part two as well. Okay. And I really thank those of you who joined us today. And, if you feel so inspired to leave a donation, I left the Cash App and the PayPal information. You can leave a donation. Okay. And on that note, I'm going to sign out. And for those who I didn't get a chance to mention in the chat, I missed you. I deeply apologize. I like to get the what's it? Oh God, this year. Yeah, oh God, please, please. I think you got everything. I missed it. Lil Mayhem, Wild Indian TV. You got Damien already. Yeah, I think you got everybody. Okay. And thanks again. I hope you joined. If you didn't get a chance to, hit the like button and subscribe if you're not subscribed. And I'll probably do a part two. I may do one on Thursday, which is when a lot of you are going to be doing the whole Thanksgiving thing. And maybe on that note. Okay? So, I'm going to sign off and say until the next time, go the dog, go hunt.